The Susan Brender Show is a radio show online broadcasted on YouTube across the United States and globally. The show features guests who speak about health, spirituality, entertainment, and a host of subjects to enlighten people across the nation. Listen to the show that empowers women and men alike and highlights those who have made a difference.
I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. You know, it's very interesting to have a person on the show who is a relationship consultant and a muse. You know, she loves to inspire and serve people in a positive way. She empowers her clients to have fun while dating instead of the process of having a tedious job. And her name is Barbara Gordon. Now, Barbara has been a very interesting guest. And today she's going to talk all about her relationship consulting company. And I think it's going to be very interesting for our audience. So let's really start, Barbara. You know, you use a team approach with the client and she moves at a pace. Tell me a little bit about your relationship consult company.
Okay, Susan. Hi, I'm Barbara, and I love to sit down with people in person, but haven't been able to do that over the pandemic time. So I've been doing a lot on Zoom, which has been great. I usually meet with a person for 20 to 30 minutes or talk to them on the phone. And then we look and see if it's a fit for us to work together. Some people are a fit. They really want to get in and dig in their heels and have fun and do the work. And others are a little bit afraid. And they probably aren't a real fit because if you're really in fear, it would be really difficult to have the willingness to really move into meeting someone and, you know, finding a perfect relationship for you.
Right. Now, you call your system a call out. What does that mean?
Call out is when people are doing the same thing over and over, which is called insanity, and they're not aware of it, and and people can listen and listen, but after a while I gently call people out and say, hey, you know, look at what you're doing, and maybe there's a better way. I call it out with gentle love, you know, not from a critical place, but from a place of, hey, maybe if you did this, try this system instead of that, maybe that would work a little better for you, because people tend to do the same patterns over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Is from my experience.
Yeah. Now, you're a very private person with the gift to guide people toward realizing the happiness within, and you help them on their journey to find love and romance. Now, that is very interesting. Tell us about that.
I think that as you meet people, you kind of like meet them where they are, and then you really figure out with them what they really want. And a lot of women really end up having a better relationship with themselves. So then they're better equipped to go out and meet the man of their dreams, because you want to meet someone as you are, you know, meet that person from a place of, you know, empowerment instead of need or desperation. So if you feel really good about who you are, you're going to really it's an energetic. I feel it's a big energetic of how you are in the world.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's a real blessing. Now, what are some of the signs that women or men may look for and find out if a person is on a dating site? Is that a scammer?
Well, there are scammers on websites. As I was saying earlier, I feel that there's, of course, there's a lot of great people on dating sites, but I think the first sign to look for a scammer is their profile, how it's being written, what words they're using. There's a lot of grammatical errors, a lot in profiles with scammers. And there's also a lot of, you know, they don't have photos oftentimes. So that brings up a red flag, you know, right away. once you see those errors, and they don't write a whole lot on their profile. It's just a few sentences and there's not much meat in it. That would, definitely bring a red flag to me.
Right. Now, here's the thing. I'm just curious, all of these sites that exist, why do people really get on them?
I think it's a really great way to make connection. And it's a good way to even practice. And my two last clients who just got married in May and June of this year, they met their husbands on Match.com, and it worked out really well for them. They met a lot of great guys, and they made a lot of guys that, wasn't a fit for them. But people use these sites like we used to in the day, meet people and be introduced to people in our friends group. That doesn't happen. It's a new paradigm. It's a
Right.
new way to meet people. It really is. And it's a good way to really
Yeah.
meet people, actually.
I'll tell you something, Barbara. People talk on their phones all the time.
Yeah.
They do everything that is digital, and it doesn't bring them to a place where they can really meet the people. It's just talking.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the reason that people are taking advantage of the phone? Because it's really a way to really forget that you need face-to-face contact.
Absolutely. I really always suggest that you do a couple of texts, and then get on the phone right away. Because by talking on the phone, you have a feeling about that person. And then you can ask. I have a process that I present to my clients where you can ask so many questions and find out information. And as they answer it, you really realize what that person's all about, and you get to know them more than
What kind of questions do you recommend that they ask?
I think questions like what they're interested in yourself. Like, for an example, some people are very interested in family. What kind of families they're from. Do they have family in the area? And just get them talking about themselves and finding out, how reliable this person is. If they say they're going to call you, do they call you at that time? Do they follow through? That's really important. And what kind of things do they enjoy doing? Just light subjects, not, do you want to get married?
Well, I think that would be a little aggressive, don't you think?
I do, but women have done that and men too. And it's like, oh my gosh, you want to run the other way, right?
Now, here's the thing. When people get on these sites, they put a kind of description about themselves. And a lot of times that description is not really true.
Yeah.
So what do you tell your guests? What do you tell them to really recognize that they have to ask certain questions? What kinds of questions would you tell them to ask?
I'd ask them the questions that are most important to them. Each person has different negotiable and non-negotiables, I call them. And I would have them ask what's important to them. An example would be, do you like to socialize? Some people are not social, right? That's really important if you're a social butterfly, right? If the person is social or not. And, I would find out, what does this person do? What kind of activities? Are they athletic? Are they into their health? That's another really important factor, especially as you're older. Can you move?
Yeah.
Can you move around? Are you able to walk a mile or two? Can you play pickleball? I mean, it's real important about, your health, I think.
Right. Don't you think that from the very beginning, when you start to really meet somebody, that you really have to watch the questions, because people feel that you're being a little nosy or asking too much at the first time that you meet?
Yes, I call it interrogation. And you don't want to ask the questions like you're interrogating a poor man or woman. You just ask it lightly, and then sit back. I think a lot of people truly don't listen. And if you sit back and you become a great listener, people will think you're the greatest thing ever because
Yeah,
you listened and you heard them, you know. Um,
yeah,
so many people really don't listen. They want to get their agenda in right away.
yeah. Now, a person comes to you again and said, I want to meet somebody because I'm lonely.
Mhm.
When people are baby boomers, they're very lonely, particularly men more than women. The fact of the matter is that men, when they lose their wife or they get divorced, they want to meet somebody very quickly. So, how do they do that from your
Um,
perspective?
okay, for you're talking men or women, yes.
I'm talking men at
Men,
this
okay,
particular
men,
point.
okay. For a man, I would just go slowly, and go out and enjoy yourself and start meeting people in groups. I think that's a great way. Like I'm going to say pickleball. There's a great pickleball uh, tournament group of people that meet all the time, or if you play golf, something that you enjoy doing, and then you meet the woman or the man. Um, because you enjoy what you're doing. Like I know of a man that really loved just, going to the library and reading, right? And he would go every week and he met a woman just by going to the library and they had that connection of reading. And then they started to date. So it depends and also being open when you're in places, not covering your face with a book and sitting at a coffee shop, but being open. Hey, how are you doing today? How's it going? Starting a conversation wherever you are, grocery stores, you meet men and women everywhere.
We live in the age of emotional overstatement. And the fact of the matter is that people are very, very emotional, especially since the COVID.
Yes.
They really lived for a couple of years doing absolutely nothing and not even close to dating. So now things have changed and
Hmm.
people are not as afraid. So tell me a story of somebody who's come to you now and said, it's been 2 years and I haven't met a soul and I'm really lonely. What would you tell them?
Yes, I've had people like that recently, and what I've been doing with them is just first of all, a lot of people's confidence, it's really difficult because they have been at home for 2 years. So the confidence and their feeling of, oh, can I meet somebody is kind of lacking right now. So what I do, to begin with is start to look at how they can feel better about themselves. Does that make, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
How I can feel better about how I look, what am I doing, so I can make myself interesting, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you want to have you want to be interesting to somebody, you know. So starting to do some things that you enjoy, like a book club maybe, or going to a meetup where we are, you can meet up with people and go dancing, or get together and go play tennis or hiking. I'm a hiker, so I would be interested. I did a lot of hiking before. And then you meet people on your own grounds as a friend, because I feel that when you're older, I think it's very slow, it's slower, where you meet someone as a friend and then it works into something romantic. And I think people tend to move in and out of dates very quickly instead of giving it some time.
Mhm.
Um,
You mentioned the word romance. Romance is very important because
Mhm.
people, they want to cuddle, they want to hold each other. They need that kind of sensation. It's really important for them. But what about when you get on one of these sites and you meet somebody who looks like he would be your perfect man, and he says to you on the first date,
Yeah.
let's have sex?
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
I say that's a red flag. And I would say to run. I would definitely, that would be a red flag for me.
Mhm.
Unless the woman really wants that too, and she's only wanting that, and that would be okay if it was both people. But if you want a really solid relationship, in my opinion, I think that that for me would be a red flag. And I would say, thank you very much, but no, thank you.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Something here it is, we live in the age where people today, they're, as I said before, their contacts are very small. They lost a lot of their friends. They
yeah,
got divorced. They lost their husbands. And again, people need somebody. So your business, do you experience a, a lot of people hooking up, maybe not getting married, but being partners? Has
yes,
that happened?
yes, a lot more than getting married. I've had people meet and they both have their own homes and they like it that way, and they both keep their own homes and they see each other on the weekends. I know one woman who's in her 80s and she has a boyfriend and she sees him Tuesday through Sunday, and it works perfect because the other day she has to herself and she loves it like that.
Yeah,
And it works perfectly. There's different ways to have relationship these days. It's not like it was in the day. um, it's changed. And I think some of it is really a good thing
mhm,
because it's not so limited then.
right.
Yeah.
And before, one of the things that people used to do is they used to hook their friends up with somebody else. And,
Right.
there were blind dates. And do they exist anymore? Blind dates?
They do, but not so much. Most people go to the dating sites and there's dating apps. And then sometimes people will introduce friends, but it sure isn't like it used to be. I've had parties, I've shown people how to have gatherings where they meet together with like 6 women, let's say, and the women bring a man friend that they're not interested in. And that was a really neat way of meeting like 6 new men.
Right.
And that was really fun. I did that for a while with different groups of people, where I would come in and do like a party. And it was
Yeah.
great because it was a good way to meet people because they know one another. So
Right.
that was fun. Yeah.
So go step by step for me. When you made these parties, how did you start them and go through the process of telling me how you made it all happen?
Just started to find women that really wanted to meet new people, and then gather 6 women together. And from there, they would bring a man they liked as a friend. They didn't date him. This was just a friend.
Hmm.
Um, they weren't involved because the men that are coming are free for the other women. And then, people would bring, if people drink, they would, bring wine and hors d'oeuvres. And then people would just get together and get to know each other. And I did some different fun exercises with them. And then they, sometimes from those parties, people hooked up and they started dating.
Well,
Yes.
that's really interesting because so many people, as we've been talking about, are lonely and never
Yeah.
have a chance to really meet people because they lost their spouses and their friends died, that sort of thing. But I'm back to the scamming thing, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what are some of the ways to avoid online dating scams? Give me just a few ideas of these scams and how they take place.
Okay. One thing to be really careful of, if a man is telling you everything you want to hear, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, and oh, I've never met someone like you. And he's saying all these things to you in the first couple times you've, had any kind of connection with him. I would really put that up as a red flag because, most people don't do that.
Right.
Um, that just isn't something that you would do
Yeah.
right off the bat.
Hmm.
And also when you ask them questions and they avoid your questions, and they keep deflating it back to you, saying, "Oh, what about you? What about you?" Always never really telling you anything about themselves, and never ever, knowing anything about them. That's really a red flag.
Right. And something, the other thing that I'm interested in knowing about is should people talk about politics? Should they talk about religion? Because those are the things that they say stay away from. But those are interesting subjects, especially now when there is so much chaos and there's so much questioning about our government. Should they be talking about those things?
I really feel that um, for me, I think it's really good to talk about those things because then you really see where that person's coming from and what they feel politically and in their religion, because it does affect some part of the relationship. And also, it makes you realize if they're open and flexible and not just one sided. You
Yeah.
know, I think if we all become more open and flexible and more adjusting to different people's ideas, maybe we could learn something,
Yes.
you know?
I'll tell you something, Barbara. One of the ways which I think that people ought to experience a really good relationship is to go back to school, to go to college, to
Yes,
learn together. What do you think about that?
I absolutely, absolutely agree. I am going to school myself, and I'm doing some criminal justice. I'm really interested in that. So, yes, I think a life learner, I love that. I love when people are growing and learning. And that really, for me, is a, a non negotiable. I want people to be able to be open and want them to learn and learn new things because we're all here to learn more every day, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yes.
And so you just said that you go to school. How did you
Mhm.
decide to do what you're doing?
Well, what I wanted to do is my husband had spinal cord surgery twice, and it was a really difficult time. And what happened was I started getting interested in getting a certificate in community relations. So I got involved with, police work and interviewing and counseling. And it was so great because it was so different than the work that I do. I thought, oh yes, I know this, but it's so totally different. So I'm excited because I think I'm going to probably start working with police departments is what I want to do
Yeah,
because they're shifting and they're changing and the paradigm is really shifting there.
yeah.
So I just am interested in that. And I think when you're interested in things, people want to be around you,
Mhm. I
you know.
agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to learn police work, right?
Yes.
And I mean, police work is really difficult work. especially if you're a baby boomer. You know, maybe I'm wrong about this, but it's hard, really hard. So, do you think that you can accomplish what you're looking to do?
I would be doing it as on a, contracted basis, and I would be doing counseling, of people, probably counseling of mental health issues and things like that. That's what I'm thinking, or working in the community like that with my skills that I have. That's what I'm feeling. That,
Yeah.
that's a direction. But
So,
yeah.
no,
So
no, please continue.
but I also think, when women are doing a lot of things and they're interesting, men are really attracted to that. When a woman doesn't have much going on and she's really needy, men know and they pick it up, and it's an energy. So that would be something for women to really look at, women or men. It doesn't really matter. Because if you have your life and you're living life full out, then the man or the woman is the addition to your life, but it's not your life.
If it was a situation where you thought about doing these things and you met people doing them, then
Hmm.
that's the best way, don't you think?
Yes, I do. I do. I think it's a great way because you have that right away then. You have that, you know, right now.
Right. And I always tell people, if you want to meet somebody, try to do it with a hobby that you have. Like, for
Hmm.
example, you mentioned pickleball.
Hmm.
If you go to a pickleball court and there's a whole bunch of people there, this is an opportunity, a great opportunity to meet somebody. If you
Hmm.
want to play tennis, it's a
Yeah.
great opportunity to meet somebody. If you want to go to school together, that's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
So, don't you think that that's the best way to start a relationship?
I do. I really do. Because when you have something in common, that gives you something together to go do together. And then you meet a group of people, and then you meet a whole group of new friends. Because I don't think there's anything better than going somewhere where you don't know anyone. That is so much fun. I
Right.
really like that.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge, it's a great challenge, and it's fun, and you come home and you go, wow, I met this person. Some could be friends, some could be a romantic partner or a client. You never know.
Yeah. What's the difference between the way young people meet each other and the way baby boomers meet each other?
I think that a lot of millennials, I guess,
Mhm.
they think they're in a relationship because they text. And we know that as baby boomers, that you need to meet that person, talk with them, and get to know them face to face. I think
Yeah,
that's the difference. And
right.
I think it's old school, but I do still agree that there's nothing better than meeting a person, and being with them, and feeling, how they're feeling at that time. You'll know when you're with someone.
Yeah. The last question that I really like to ask you, is it a good idea to do a background check? You know, we talked all about scammers, but the question is doing a background check to someone you care about and getting seriously involved with, because you never know. And that's something you also said. So, background checks are really, really very serious. Uh,
Yes. Mm. I definitely agree with doing a background check. I think in this day and age, not saying that I'm fearful or any of that, but if I'm going to get really involved with someone, I would definitely do a background check. I think it's a smart idea to do.
Right. And I always like to give my guest a last question. So, what's the last question that you want to answer and tell our audience so that they really go to you, meet somebody, and have a great fun time?
Oh, I love that. I just say that if you really would like to meet someone and you're serious about it, to please call me for a 30-minute consultation. I'm happy to talk with you. And if we don't fit together, I'll certainly give you some good tips. I always feel You give out things and it comes back triple fold always. And I just think get out there, meet some new people, and don't be afraid. It's okay. Everyone feels the same way. Just
Yeah,
have a good time and have a smile on your face and have your body language open instead of shut down. That's
right.
really important.
So if people want to get in touch with you, Barbara, and learn a little bit about your career and what you're doing for them, how do they do that?
They could go to my website. It's www.thelovemuse.com, and you can send me a submission from there or a call. It would be 510-917-0299, and I would love to speak to all of you. It will be my pleasure.
Well, my guest today has been Barbara Gordon Kaliva. She's a relationship consultant muse. Barbara loves to inspire and serve people in a positive way. And it's been a pleasure speaking to you and learning how you do your business and what you've accomplished. So thank you very much, Barbara, for being on the Susan Brender Show.
Thank you, Susan, so much for the opportunity.